Welcome, my friends, to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today for a fun conversation with a passionate author. We're kicking off the program, like it's our tradition, with a short reading from the feature book. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Teri M Brown, and I am the author of Daughters of Green Mountain Gap. And I'm going to read the prologue today. This is a story about a granny woman, which is a healer in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina. And this is Maggie in January of 1894. During the daylight hours, she kept herself busy cooking, cleaning, feeding the animals, and chopping firewood. She had even taken to going far up the side of the mountain to hunt for large hardwood limbs to drag back to the homestead. Anything to make her tired enough to sleep. But when the night came, she would lie awake, visions passing before her eyes like ghosts. Esther holding baby Malcolm, her beloved Henry with his shirt tied around his waist as he drove in the nails that built their first home. The beautiful, silent face of her stillborn son. Then would come her daughter, jabbing her finger, flecks of spittle flying from her mouth as she would scream, "You, mother, you killed him." Sleeping, when she finally succumbed, only led to dreams. Esther begging, "No, please, Maggie, don't do this. I don't want to die." And then she'd wake in a sweat. Maggie pulled the door shut to the storeroom with her medicines, knowing she would never practice healing again. Instead, she carved 2 more notches on her walking stick. She rubbed her thumb across all 17 indentations, remembering in vivid detail her role in each death. The number was not insignificant. Though her Italian heritage was slim, she remembered the warning. 17 is the number of death. Don't write it down, Maggie. Don't even think it. If you do, you're saying your life is over. Maggie never really believed it. Until now. Now, 17 people declared in her dreams, "I'm dead. My life is over." 17 deaths, she realized, were a direct result of her inadequacies and incompetence. No, she would never again be the granny woman. In fact, she should have never done so to begin with. Her daughter Carrie Ann had been right all along. As if to make her isolation complete, a blizzard, the likes of which Maggie had never experienced, rolled in. She screwed her face into a mocking smile. Very fitting, Mother Nature. The sheer immenseness of the snow kept her homebound, leaving Maggie with plenty of time to wrestle with her thoughts. In addition to the specters of those who died because of her, she fought her conscience. How could she make amends when she couldn't bring the dead back to life? How could she ever move forward knowing her hands, the hands tasked to heal, did just the opposite? Then she remembered the Utlanoa. Many years ago, a Cherokee medicine man warned her to be wary of a man exiled from the tribe. Weah killed his wife in a fit of anger. Our council considered the best punishment, realizing he was like the Utlanoa, the soft-shelled turtle who was too aggressive to live among the others of his kind. The tribe banished Weah, taking from him his name, his status, his village, his language, everything that made him Cherokee. You may spot him, Maggie, from time to time. He lives alone, no longer speaking. He creeps along the edges of humanity, wishing he had been less like the Utlanoa. Beware of him. Do not give him food or shelter. It was with this memory she knew what she had to do. Weah's crime was murder, as was hers, but her victims had no voice and no way to demand retribution, so she would take it upon herself to carry out justice. I am no better than Weah. In fact, I am worse. He killed in anger. I, on the other hand, did the opposite of what I was sent to this earth to do. Not in anger, but in carelessness, in foolishness, in incompetence. Now, when the ghosts of Esther came to her, she begged forgiveness, telling her she would never hurt another. I have become an Utlanoa. From this day forward, I will live alone. My hands will never touch another. My thoughts will never turn into words for another to hear. My actions will never again cause pain or suffering or death. I cannot bring you back, my dear friend, but I assure you I will never harm another. By the time the snow began to melt, Maggie knew what she had to do. She packed some of her belongings, just those that would help her eke out the barest existence, and loaded them into the wagon. Then she headed for the tiny cabin built by Henry all those years ago. The small one-room building stood empty except for the animals who found refuge from the weather. Maggie pushed open the door, hauling in the blankets, one large stock pot, cast iron pan, and an assortment of other necessities. Then she made her way to the barn, which was more akin to a lean-to. The years of neglect caused the south wall to collapse. It will do, she thought, as she led the mule into this space. Though not banished in the same way as Wea, having to live among the trees on the edge of the civilization, Maggie determined to live out her days in the small cabin. She did not want room and ease and a large garden. She did not want a front porch for sipping lemonade or a kitchen table large enough for guests. She didn't want to be reminded of her family or the storeroom of herbs. She simply wanted to be left alone to atone for her sins.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Inside the Minds of Authors. I am so excited for this season. I know I keep saying this in every episode, but it's going to be amazing. We have a fabulous author joining us today, so I'm hoping you guys are excited to the chat and love that reading as much as I did because I have questions. Before we start, just know, my friends, if you're new to the podcast, go ahead and subscribe. You don't want to miss an episode. We have new authors coming in every Monday. Make sure to sign up. Also, if you have some time, go ahead, give us a review, give us a like, share with a friend. We're always better when we're growing together. So let's jump in and have Miss Teri. Hello, madam. How are you?
I'm just fine. How are you today?
I am so excited you're here.
Thank you.
It's always so much fun to talk to you. And I have questions because I was not prepared for this book. I'm like, what is going on? I need to know, what is this book about? Because you just read this itty bitty piece and I'm like, okay, I need more information. What's going on here? Tell us.
So it is a book that's set in the 1890s in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina. And Maggie is a granny woman. A granny woman is like a healer. They use roots and herbs. But more than that, there's almost like a little bit of a magical kind of aspect to it, as though they have some abilities that don't seem to have anything to do with the medicines they use. For instance, they can do things like hawk off a wart, or like blow in your mouth and thrush disappears, or get babies to turn in the womb, that kind of thing. So that's what she is. And she's a generational healer. Her mother was a healer, her grandmother, and she's passed it down. And she has a daughter and a granddaughter. Her daughter is Carrie Ann, and Carrie Ann blames her mother for the death of her father. And he died of cancer. And she felt that if her mother had done a better job or gotten him to real medicine, that he would have survived. And so she decides that she's going to become a healer, but she's going to do it, quote unquote, the right way. And she goes and becomes an actual nurse and tries to bring this modern medicine idea into her tiny town. And then her daughter is kind of like, she also feels like she should be a healer, but she has no way to know what to do. Should she follow her granny that she absolutely loves and adores and has watched her do all this healing? Or does she follow her mother, who she also loves and sees the good that she does? The thing that Josie May notices, though, is that both her mother and her grandmother lose patience. So it isn't like there's some perfect idea. And so we kind of come to terms in the end and find out, like, what is Josie May going to do? What's the real answer?
I love the beginning of this. I love the self-torture that the character wants to take herself in as atonement for her sins.
Right. Right.
Does it really sin?
Yeah. So it's one of those things where even my editor said, is it too much? And I said, I don't think so, because you get to a point in your life where you're doing your very best and you feel like you have a calling, and yet things aren't going the way you wanted them to. And especially if it's something like a life or death. And what happens is that you lose someone close to you. And then you begin to doubt yourself. Could I have done more? Should I have done more? And then you've got Carrie Ann coming in who's saying, yeah, you should have done more. And then you doubt yourself to the point that you say, fine, that what I need to do now is just stop. I need to stop before I do this to anyone else. I need to pull away. I need to not be part of society. And she's got her reasons, and she's had a lot of things happen in her life. It's not like she had this easygoing life and one little thing happened. She's been living a very difficult life in the mountains of North Carolina in 1890s. It wasn't an easy life. She lost several children and she lost her husband. She's losing friends. And, eventually you say, it must be me.
I like the fact that she come full circles to herself. She's like, I'm the common denominator.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm the fault in here,
Right.
which
Right.
which is interesting because you're looking at modern medicine, and I'm sure doctors have the same doubts and they have the same questions. And when do you realize this might be too much for my soul to handle? So I'm like, ooh,
Well, what's interesting, and so this is kind of a little side note and personal, but my husband has brain cancer, and it's incurable brain cancer. And we go up to Duke and we see these doctors, and they put on these smiles and they tell you these things they're going to do. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how do they do this every day? Knowing that people that they're dealing with, like, there isn't a cure. It'd be
yeah,
different if you thought, okay, well, some of them are going to make it. You know that this is going to be their end. It's just a matter of when and how, like how quickly and with what medicine in their systems and all of those things. Oh, I think it would kill me.
it's one of the things we know that's going to happen to all of us,
Yeah,
but to deal in it all of the time
all the
and know
time.
that, yeah, your patients are not going to get better. They're not going to
Yeah.
get recover and walk out the door. So as a doctor, do you just make it better for them? Do you learn?
Yes. And I guess that's what you have to do is you have to
Mhm.
figure out that place of you recognize, what am I actually doing here? Well, I am trying to give them more time with their loved ones, those things.
Mhm.
And so I think I channeled a lot of that into this book, that idea of like, how do you handle all of that? I think it would be horrible. I can't imagine if I were going into the medical field, I would want to go into something where like everything was happy. You know,
Which
you
one is
know,
that?
I
What
don't
branch
know,
is
but
that?
I don't know, maybe podiatry. I don't know, something where you're not I
I'm
don't
thinking
care to touch
pharmacist.
feet, but
Yeah.
I'm saying so something that wasn't so life and death all the time, or at least you had a 50-50, you
That
know?
has to be a little more than what they're getting now.
Yeah, yeah, so
Well, you're talking about that. Back in the day, I went to talk to a psychologist. We're talking about mental illness and we're talking about what can I do? He's like, there's not a pill for this. And I looked at him like, what? He's like, I can teach you coping mechanisms, but it's not going to be how you were before. And that kind of changed the way I saw a lot of things in my life. I was like,
yeah,
I was looking to be back how I was. What if
yeah,
that is not the case? Now I have to look at the new normal and how do I cope? And sometimes I think coping skills is something that we look down upon because we want to be fixed.
right, we wanna be better, we want it to just be back the way it was, but, as you get older, so I'm now 60, and you can't be 20 again. Like, I can do all kinds of things, I can go to the doctor, and I'm never gonna feel 20 again. Because my body is not 20 anymore. And so you just have to kind of start recognizing that you age and that things change and that you have different situations and you just figure out, okay, what do we do with what we've got?
I am so in awe of the fact that you have taken and channeled all these emotions and all this energy into this book and walking us through it. Because now the question is, how did that idea come through? Because you could have done anything with this
Right.
material. Why
Right.
this book?
So it's crazy. There's like a combination of things that came together. The first one is so benign. I had a wart on my thumb. Okay, which is like no big deal. I was at my primary care doctor and I said, "Hey, can you remove it while I'm in here?" And she said, "No, you'll have to see a specialist." And I thought, "You've got to be kidding me." So I went to like a CVS and got one of those patches and, wart came off. But a few weeks later, I was talking to my brother and we were complaining about healthcare and the fact that like primary care doctors now pretty much take your temperature and your blood pressure and then send you on to someone else. And I told him about my wart and he said, "Why didn't you get someone to talk it off?" And I said, "What?" And so I am the person in the family that people tell stories to, and then I fall hook, line, and sinker, and then they laugh about it for years. So every Christmas, it's, "You remember that time we told Terry?" So I did not believe him. And I kind of, yeah, yeah, yeah. But when we got off the phone, the research junkie in me said, I've just got to know. So I Googled it, and there are people who literally can talk to someone with a wart, and within a week, the wart falls off. And yeah, when they blow in their mouth and like thrush disappears, they can talk to babies, all of this kind of like magical thing, you know, which the more I read, the more I needed to read. And so now I'm diving down all of these little rabbit holes, and I found these granny women, which were the North Carolina Appalachian Mountains. I think they were probably also maybe in the Tennessee mountains and down through that area. But it was just like, oh my gosh. And immediately Maggie started talking to me,
Ooh.
like immediately. And then at the same time, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And we started going through this journey of what is worth doing and how do you make these decisions, and watching the doctors and watching his struggles and all of that. And I think I just kind of like Maggie was talking to me from all of the cool things that I had learned through my research, and then all of the stuff that I was experiencing because of the medical stuff that we were handling. And I think that's just kind of where it just, I don't know, it just kind of came out like a
That
volcano.
it is. That is beautiful and powerful. And I was just like, oh my God. Because sometimes we forget, and as readers and writers, that a lot of the journeys we put into the page is coming from somewhere inside of us or
Right,
somewhere close to us.
right.
So to channel the pain and to channel the love, because there is a lot of love in this book,
Yeah. Yeah.
and putting it in there, I think my biggest thing right now is to show people you're not alone. You know,
Exactly. So what healed these people? A lot of times Maggie's medicine, I mean, it's not medicine the way we see medicine. It's, roots, herbs, and things. And she would make these concoctions, and people would get well. And I think a lot of it has to do with it's more of a faith issue than it is an actual medicine issue. I mean, we know from studies that people can take placebos and say that their pain is now better. And yet they were not given anything to help their pain, but they experience less pain. There is something going on in the minds of people that we've yet to be able to explain that can heal. It's like our bodies are meant to heal. And if we believe that they will, then we do better. Optimistic people, for instance, recover from surgery faster. Okay. Why? If it was just medicine, that would not be a thing, but it has more to do with that. And I think that the whole granny woman idea is that there's this belief by the granny woman herself that she has this ability. And then the person who she's talking to also believes it. And that faith, that belief is like 90% of what's going on. And the other 10% might be the herb that she gave them. That 90% of I believe Granny can take care of me, and Granny believing I can. And then what happens when that belief is ripped apart?
that is so huge because it is the power of faith multiplied with
Yeah.
somebody else's faith, you
Yeah.
know. And it's the same thing. Think about it in the reverse. You just kind of pointed into it. What happens when the faith is crushed? And then
Right.
you meet somebody else who's crushing it with you, which happens to be the daughter. There's
Yeah.
nothing left. Like
There's
me.
nothing left. And then you fall
Mm.
apart. The other thing is in this book, I have Maggie meets a Cherokee medicine man, and she starts learning some things from him, and she looks into their belief system. Well, their belief system is also this idea of like everything has a spirit. And when you put all of that spirit energy together, it can do amazing things. So in the Cherokee tradition, if someone is ill, their whole family and all their loved ones all come together and do the chants and everything at the same time with the medicine man because they're combining their energy. So that idea of, the healing power and the faith of everyone, it's like, okay, I believe and my healer believes. And now I have, 14 individuals standing around my bed who also believe. If your body has the ability to heal at that point, all of that faith is going to help that happen because everyone in the room is channeling to make that happen. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like,
It does.
okay,
It's a beautiful visual.
yeah,
Also, the fact that sometimes I think as humans, we tend to be our own biggest enemy because we tend to self-sabotage. And worry is faith working backwards, is us focusing on something else. Everybody says, I believe in Murphy's Law. I'm like, listen, Murphy's Law only applies when I can't fix it. If it's just
Right.
a small delay, this is a plot twist. This is not that big of a deal. So faith has a power, and faith
Yeah.
and belief within a community has amazing things. Even if the person's not healed, the time that they spend there is better than
Right.
they were before. So I think that
Right.
alone is powerful.
I think that's true. And that's something we've noticed with my husband. Like I said, we know that this is not a curable cancer. Yet the time that we've been given has been amazing because everything that we do means something. For you, you live your day and you go about your day, and you might live several days before you've done something that means something, right? And that's just because we're busy and it's life and that's what it is. But when you have someone that you love that you know has a limited time and you don't know what that limit is, everything you do has meaning. He and I sit together and he laughs and he smiles big enough that his dimple pops out, and I feel it in my soul. And I think the medicines that we're being given give us that opportunity to have one more smile or one more trip to the beach where we can walk along the beach or one more Christmas with the kids. And if you get two, oh man, we got two more, yeah. So that idea that you have the ability to like, and it's the faith part,
One of the
you know?
things I read a while back says, what would you do if you knew you only have one day to live? How would you live your life? And you're living it. You know that there's a countdown. Most of us kind of go through life going, oh, yeah, it's going to happen, but not
Yeah.
really focused on that. It literally is going to happen. It could happen now.
Right. Right.
So
That's what people say to me is, well, how do you do this? And I said, well, the same way you do it, you've got it a clock over your head too. You just aren't currently paying attention to it. I happen to be paying attention to it because we go up to the doctor every 6 weeks who points it out very blatantly and you can't help but notice, right? And so it's a good reminder. It's like you go up there and for a day or two after that visit, you feel a little crushed. And then it's like, okay, we've got to live.
and you live
We-
bigger and
Yeah.
brighter with a lot
Yeah.
more focus on that love. That's like, you know
Yeah.
what? This is going to mean something and it's going to mean something
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. This is a memory I'll be able to keep. I mean, we go out to something like the other day, he said to me just out of the blue, I want to go out to eat. And he just wanted to eat at like a little hamburger place. It was no big deal, right? So off we go. I snapped a picture, two of us together I mean, do you just snap pictures of your family randomly eating a dumb meal of burgers? Why? Because I don't know. We may not get another time to eat out.
And
And I
that's
got a
important.
picture of it. I do. I take pictures. He's got to the point where we go do something. And he goes, I know. He leans over and smiles so we can get them selfie together.
But you're even laughing about that. Like
Yeah.
that's a memory within itself.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's where all of this kind of came from. It's a journey that I'm going through in a very different way than I have Maggie going through it. But I was able to channel some of my feelings and then what I imagine the healers around us must be feeling. He had an amazing man that did his surgery who, I mean, he's fantastic. And yet, when he does a glioblastoma and is able to remove it, even if he does the best job possible, he knows that the outcome is still not going to be good. And I think, how do you do that over and 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 over? And so those were the kinds of thoughts that I think helped me like figure some of this medical stuff out. I don't know that I figured it out, but anyway. So,
I think you put it into human terms and it's the
yeah,
human experience. And it goes back to how do I give you a little more of that quality of life that you deserve
yeah,
for whatever time you have and
whatever
let
you
you
have.
embrace
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
You guys are living the dream that every doctor wishes will happen with their patients is to realize, no, I'm not going to cure you, but we're all dying. What are you
yes.
making of life while you're still here? And it's like, I want to cry. I was like, oh my God, Miss Debbie, you have me all teary up right now. It's like way early in the morning to be all of this, like, oh my God. But it's a beautiful way to express it. And I'm so impressed and so glad you came to share with us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's one of those things is as I was writing it, I wasn't even sure that it was going to go anywhere because I don't know. My whole writing process was different this time because he was ill and I was having to like in between all these appointments and sometimes it felt like it's too close and it's probably too raw and it's probably not what anyone needs. And then I would read it again and think, okay, well, maybe it is okay. It was very difficult. And then I ended up dedicating it to him as well because I felt like it was his journey that helped me bring this book out. Despite all that he's going through, he's like my biggest cheerleader. Every time I do something or if I get an award or someone gives me a good review or whatever, he'll stop what he's doing and he kind of like bows over and he says, "I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy." I just laugh. He's just
Oh,
so
that's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
Miss Terry, sending blessings to both of you to continue
Thank
to
you.
enjoy every single moment the way you're doing it because I'm loving it.
Thank you. Thank you.
What are you working on now? Do you have anything where you're trying to settle into this book?
No, so it's crazy. I have 3 historical fiction and everyone assumes that I'm a historical fiction author. And what I am is a character-driven fiction author. I have characters that like pop into my head and refuse to go away. And eventually I have to sit down and write their story or I'll go crazy with this person in my head who won't leave. I was a little girl, preteen. I used to read the book Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. Okay, I probably read it 18 times. I mean, it was like the book because, am I going to get boobs and am I going to get a period and all the things. And that book turned into a movie. And when they started talking about it, I had this thought that came out of nowhere, which was, never happened to Margaret. And bam, I thought her name is now Peg and she's going through menopause. And so Peg was born and she is a 50-somethings, recently separated, going through menopause, back on the dating scene. Life is just crazy. So it's kind of a very humorous, funny look at the whole menopause thing. So I
And
don't know.
I'm so glad you're doing that because I'm brainstorming one myself. So I'm like, oh, I love it. Thank you. It's in the air.
Yeah. Yes. I've got like 25,000 words written and this one's very difficult for me. When I write my historical fiction, it's third person, multiple point of view, and it just kind of flows out of me. This one has been a lot harder because it's one point of view, first person, present tense. But in a way, I like the challenge. It's like really making me hone craft as opposed to just going along with the flow. And I already know what I'm doing. This one's really causing me to think. Really think. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I love it. I love it. We can chit chat forever. I am enjoying this conversation. So, question, where can our listeners find you? Where they can learn more about the books? Tell us.
Absolutely go to my website, which is my name, Teri M Brown, and that's Terry with 1 R. There you will see all the little icons for my social media. I'm on everything. So like wherever you are, that's where I am. I also have a newsletter. Feel free to sign up. I send it out twice a month. One is newsy stuff about me and the books, and one is about books that I've been reading. And so I give little book reviews of the different books that I've been reading. And I also have a contact page. So feel free to get on, send me a note. Hey, Terry, wanted to ask you. I love to talk. So whatever you want to talk about, I'm more than willing. That's the best way to find me.
Ooh, love it. Listeners, go ahead and check out Miss Terry. Sign up for the newsletter. You don't want to miss anything. It's going to keep you informed. I love it. Okay, madam, before you leave us, are you ready for the lightning round?
I hope.
These are easy peasy. Don't think too
Okay.
hard on them.
Okay.
Water or juice?
A water.
Okay. A knight or a princess?
Man,
You're thinking
I
too
get-
much.
I guess princess. I don't know.
Okay, that's okay.
I don't know.
Romantic comedy or action?
Romantic comedy.
Ebooks or print?
Oh, it depends upon when I'm having to read it. I really love a print book, but I read a lot of ebooks at night while my husband's sleeping and I don't want to disturb him, so I can do it with an ebook. So I read a lot on ebook, but I would rather have a book in my hand.
I agree with that. Okay, this is a little different. Let's see how you do with this one. If you could play any character on a film, who will you play?
Oh, now that's funny. I would I would get on Gone with the Wind and I would play Scarlet because
Ooh.
I loved that movie growing up and the thought of being in all those fancy dresses. And it's so not me, but it's me. It's like there's this alter ego part of me that says that I would have loved to have had all those hats. So
Oh, that's a beautiful image. I love it. Miss Terry, do you have any closing remarks for us?
just that I am thrilled to be an author and I am thrilled that there are people out there reading my books. And if you love the book, please, review the book. And if you don't love the book, put it down and find one you do love because reading is awesome. And there are, multiple authors out there. You can find someone that fits you.
Oh, that's such a beautiful thing to tell. Find the book that makes you smile. Just keep
Yeah.
reading. We love it. Miss Terry, congratulations on the new book.
Thank you.
Congratulations for being an inspiration to me on this journey you are taking. So I love it. If you don't mind, keep us posted. We want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do on my newsletter. So if it's something you want to know, every newsletter I put a little health update just to kind of keep people up with what's going on. So
That's good to know. I need to sign up. I do sign up for lots of newsletters. So guys, you should know this by now. So, but have an amazing day. Sending you many,
thank
many
you.
blessings to our listeners. Make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss any of these amazing authors we have. And I will be back next Monday with another fabulous one. Bye, everyone.